I'm Alice. I'm a 35-year-old office worker. Ever since my husband, David, who is 2 years younger than me, was transferred, we've been temporarily living with my in-laws. It's strictly a temporary arrangement. David seems to want to continue living at his parents' house. But I want to find a proper home soon and leave the in-laws' place as quickly as possible. The reason is, I just don't get along with my in-laws at all. Especially my mother-in-law, Susan. She has always been quite sarcastic, even before our marriage, but it's gotten worse since we started living together. Alice, haven't you gone shopping yet? You've missed the supermarket's sale time. You can't even shop efficiently, really. My company allows teleworking, but weekdays are still working hours for me. I can't shop during the supermarket's sale times. I've told you many times, Susan, I'm working during the day, so I can't go shopping until after 5 p.m. When I say this, Susan retorts, always so high and mighty. And you can't even bear a child, barren as you are, blaming me as usual. David and I don't have children. We haven't investigated thoroughly at a hospital, so we don't know who is responsible. I wanted children, but considering David's earnings, we couldn't afford expensive infertility treatments. I was already troubled by Susan's sarcasm even before we started living together, but it was better when we lived separately. Living in the same house day and night, I'm exposed to her sarcasm 24/7. My father-in-law, Mike, while not directly sarcastic towards me, irritates me in a different way. He seems to think that a woman over 30 is an old lady, and now that I'm 35, he treats me like one. Hey, old lady, pass me the ashtray. Why are you wearing a skirt? No one wants to see an old lady's legs. If I'm an old lady, what does that make him at 60? I want to retort. I'm not the type to take things lying down, so each time my in-laws are rude to me, I talk back. But this leads to being labeled as disrespectful, and our relationship worsens. The atmosphere at home has become constantly tense, and I'm feeling the limit of living together. However, David has been busier with work since the transfer, with more weekend work and business trips. So we haven't been able to discuss moving out. Alice, I have another business trip this weekend. Again? You just had one. Your new branch sure requires a lot of travel. His previous workplace had overtime but hardly any weekend work or business trips. Can't help it, right? The job changes with the workplace. True, but it's changed too much. Because of this, we haven't been able to look for a place to move out, even though it was supposed to be a temporary stay at the in-laws. What if we end up living here indefinitely? I'm scared of that. But one day, I was taking laundry out of David's bag when he returned from a business trip, and I found a piece of paper in the pocket. It was a receipt for an online reservation from a travel site. I thought it was a flight and hotel reservation for his business trip, but when I looked, I was shocked. There, I found a printed reservation for a hotel stay that included tickets to a theme park. And it was for 2 people. The date was yesterday. Meaning, it was the same day David was supposedly away on a business trip. Of course, David's company doesn't have any dealings with theme parks. They deal with seafood, which, yes, is related to the sea, but that's irrelevant. In other words, David pretended to go on a business trip but actually spent 2 days at a theme park. The reservation for 2, it's safe to assume he went with a woman. As I stood there in shock, I could hear David humming in the bath. It's a world of laughter. It's a theme song of a well-known attraction. He must be humming it naturally, recalling his time at the theme park. Though I'm sure that attraction isn't at the park he visited. But it seems on a fun, illicit trip like that, the attractions don't matter. I was furious and thought about confronting David in the bath. But just then, David's phone rang. Out of sheer irritation and lacking calm judgment, I answered the phone in anger. Hello? I heard a young woman's voice for a moment, and then the call abruptly ended. No way. I was certain. The call just now had to be from the woman who went to the theme park with David. In other words, David's mistress. When she heard a woman's voice, she must have panicked and hung up. I checked the call history on David's phone. David isn't very security conscious, so he hardly sets a complex password. Guessing it's probably his birthday in 4 digits, I hit the jackpot. The phone unlocked immediately. but looking inside his phone made my head spin. The phone was brimming with undeniable evidence of his affair. The photo gallery was filled with selfies he took with a young woman, all taken on dates when David was supposedly on business trips or working on weekends. To leave such explicit photos, he was being recklessly careless. Checking the call history again, I saw Emily listed, so I searched for the same name in the SNS friends list and opened their chat. David, I love you. I can't wait to become your wife. This woman, Emily, seemed to be hoping to marry David. A homewrecker? Is she a homewrecker? While I was agonizing, David came out of the bath. I feel so refreshed. As he casually dried his head with a towel, I confronted him. Refreshed? What part of you is refreshed? It seems you've been quite refreshed in various ways, haven't you? Who's Emily? Oh. David was visibly shaken when I suddenly mentioned his mistress's name. So it's true. You lied about business trips and were actually traveling alone with a woman named Emily. I can't forgive you for all these lies. How did you, what the? I showed him the evidence on his phone. This phone has all the evidence I need. You snooped through my phone? That's a violation of privacy. A man who cheats and has such a lack of moral sense complaining about privacy invasion is laughable. If you didn't want it to be seen, you should have set a better password. Before getting married, I made a promise with David. That promise was to never cheat. If either of us cheated, it would be an instant divorce. I declared that to David. Of course, I still feel the same way. I can't continue a married life with a man who goes after other women. Let's get a divorce. When I said that, David surprisingly just nodded in agreement. Yeah, I guess so. It was unexpected. I thought he would resist more. Was he prepared for a divorce as soon as his affair was discovered? I'll prepare for paperwork tomorrow. You explain things to your parents. All right. David's agreement was unexpectedly easy. But once I've made a declaration, I can't and won't take it back. So this is goodbye to married life. I felt a tinge of sadness. The next day, I went out early in the morning to prepare the divorce papers and to run some errands. When I returned home, it was already late at night. There, my husband and in-laws were waiting for me. You finally came back. I was wondering where you've been wandering off to. Susan started with her sarcasm as soon as she saw me. Since David is here, they must already know about his affair and the divorce. Shouldn't they apologize or say something before making sarcastic remarks? But instead of apologizing, Susan said something unbelievable. Well, it's good. I'm glad you're finally leaving. I didn't want to see your face anymore, so it was good you weren't here until night. What do you mean by that? I asked, as Susan grinned smugly. Just what I said. I've been sick of seeing your face. Even though David finally came back to us, you were in the way. I tried to drive you out with my nagging, but you, with no charm, just talked back. So, I had to use my last resort. Last resort? Susan smiled cunningly. You know the name of David's girlfriend, right? Yes. Emily, I believe. Why would Susan confirm the name of David's mistress? Haha. Well, I have a friend at my social club, Catherine, and her daughter is a very polite and charming young lady, 25 years old. 10 years younger than you. Young enough to have plenty of children. Then Susan revealed something shocking. So I introduced David to Catherine's daughter. What? I was astounded. I couldn't believe Susan would say such a thing to me. You mean to tell me, Susan, that you orchestrated David's affair? Oh, don't make it sound so bad. I just made an introduction. I was appalled by Susan's brazen admission. A mother leading her son to cheat. And proudly telling this to her son's wife. How terrifying a mother is she. Well, it had to be done. David is an only child, and we need an heir. If you had just born a child, I might have accepted you. But you just worked. Never having a baby. Mike was nodding in agreement beside her. So, Susan's actions were with Mike's knowledge. Do you understand? A 35-year-old woman who can't bear children is no longer needed. Now that you understand, leave quickly. Susan pointed her finger at me triumphantly. After a moment of silence, I said, I see. I understand your thoughts very well. As you wish, I'll leave. I'll take all my belongings with me. Yes, yes, as you please. You don't have much anyway. Shall I send them for you? Susan said, smirking, though she knew nothing. But the real person to laugh was me. No, it's fine, don't worry. I've already arranged everything. Huh? Susan looked surprised that I wasn't crying or losing my composure. Besides, Susan, I already knew that you were aiding David in his affair. Eh? I sneered at Susan. What do you think I was doing all day today? If it were just preparing for paperwork for divorce, it wouldn't have taken this long. I spent the entire day arranging the move and meeting with Emily. What? Wait, you met with Emily? David asked in a panic. What's it to you? Did you think I wouldn't have a word with her after being cheated on right under my nose? When I checked your phone yesterday, I made sure to take down her number. I spoke with a sense of resolve. Poor Emily, though. When I called her saying, I'm David's wife and I'd like to meet, she was so shocked. Apparently. You lied to her about being single. I told her everything. David, Susan, and Mike were stunned. They never imagined I would do all this in just one day. Emily was so upset when she realized she was the other woman without knowing it. Catherine was furious too, with you too. She even talked about suing you two for marriage fraud. I felt so sorry for her that I promised to help her in any way I could. What? David was trembling. Susan was equally shocked. Since Emily was so unwittingly involved, I've decided not to demand any compensation from her. Instead, I'm going to increase the amount of compensation from you, David, and you too, Mike and Susan. Compensation? Why should we pay compensation? Mike blurted out in panic. David alone would be one thing, but we are not involved. It seems they expected their son to pay compensation for his affair, but they never dreamed they would be asked to pay as well. Thinking they could benefit without any consequences? There's no such convenient story. Of course, you are. The mental anguish from your harassment as in-laws is reason enough for compensation, don't you think? I smiled dismissively, and Mike fell silent, grumbling. And have you forgotten my profession? I work at a law firm. I'll consult with Michael, the head attorney, and see how much compensation we can extract. Of course, I had already contacted Michael at the law firm where I work earlier today. What? Then, the sound of a car stopping at the front gate was heard. Ah, they're here. Hey, there, moving service. I smiled broadly and headed to the entrance. Thank you for coming so late, sorry for the sudden request. No problem, we had a slot open for the night service. It worked out well for me too since I finished my errands late. Please start the work, and be careful with the fragile items. As I invited them in, several movers entered the house, starting to pack up my belongings. Wait a minute. Following my instructions, the movers efficiently packed my belongings. Not just my clothes, books, and computer, but also the appliances from the living room and kitchen. Hey, you guys, don't take that. That's ours. Nope, these are all mine. I brought them into this house when I moved in with David. When David and I initially moved in, the in-laws' house only had old appliances. As someone who loves gadgets, I couldn't bear it and brought my own appliances from my previous apartment. Now, Susan had grown accustomed to them, mistakenly thinking they were theirs. The robot vacuum, cordless cleaner. The fancy oven that could do various types of cooking. The IH cooking heater, the negative ion hairdryer, and the espresso machine. You're planning to take everything away. How greedy. Susan lunged at me, but David stopped her. Mom, it can't be helped. But all those things belong to Alice. It seemed David had resigned himself. However, Susan wasn't ready to give up yet. You can't go back once you've experienced the efficiency of modern appliances. If you're dissatisfied, you can always buy new ones, right? Although, after paying the compensation, I doubt you'll have the money for luxury appliances. While this was happening, the movers kept carrying out my directed belongings to the truck, and then they got into the truck. Please take these to the address of my new place. I'll be right there. I watched as the moving truck drove off, then got into my car. Of course, this car was also mine. Where is that truck going? David asked. Where? To my apartment, of course. The one I lived in before you were transferred. The apartment I bought when I was single was put up for sale with a real estate agent when David got transferred. However, because the asking price was too high, it never sold, and I still hadn't let it go. The agent kept suggesting to lower the price, but I'm glad I didn't. Who would have thought it would come to this? I fastened my seatbelt and chuckled. But maybe deep down, I anticipated this. David looked confused. Because I set the selling price higher than the market value to ensure it wouldn't sell. So that I could always return to the apartment. David collapsed to his knees when he heard my words. You heartless woman. I was pushed over by Susan, who charged at me while yelling, taken off guard by my victory. As I groaned in pain, Susan tried to throw a cutting board at me for further attack. Suddenly, a black figure collided with her. And with a cry of, ugh, she fell to the ground. Thank you, Midnight. I held onto the stray cat, Midnight, as I quickly got into the moving truck and sped away from Susan. I don't know why Midnight was there, but given his strong sense of justice, he must have come to rescue me. I'll give him some treats later. Afterward, David and I divorced. My law firm filed for compensation from David and his parents. Michael, the head attorney, took the case for almost no fee, using it as practice for the young associates. Even with a young lawyer in charge, I felt secure with Michael's support. Michael himself took on Emily's lawsuit. Given the severity, he's pursuing both criminal and civil charges. It's been a while since he's dealt with a criminal case, so he's eager. After paying the compensation to Emily and me, David's parents will probably have to sell their house, and that still might not be enough. The thought of those three facing a life of debt and poverty almost makes me smirk. Now single, my life without dishonest David and his parents feels like heaven in comparison. For a while, I'll enjoy a carefree single life in my apartment with Midnight, the stray cat I brought with me. I've been putting up with this because of you, wanting kids but never having them. You're defective. The hurtful words hurled at me by my husband of 20 years felt like a stab in the heart. I realized then that I couldn't go on with this man. He's already lost in thoughts of a new marriage. I believe God has been watching over us, witnessing these devilish acts. That's why something like that happened to him. My name is Rachel, and I'm 45 years old. I work as an administrative assistant in a law firm. It's almost been 20 years since we got married. We've lived a modest life together, just the two of us. We both really wanted children. But it never happened. The problem was more on my side, and I spent years going to treatments while working, draining both my physical and financial resources. Yet without success. When I turned 40, I decided to give up. My husband wanted children until the end and urged me to continue the treatments, but I had reached my limit. Enduring pain, watching our savings dwindle. I was scared of that situation. After all, they say you need $200,000 saved for retirement. Spending more money seemed like a waste. I propose we stop the treatments and live our lives, just the two of us. Let's save up and maybe go on some luxurious trips instead of having children. I suggested this, and my husband, though hesitant, agreed. So, we decided to enjoy our life together. Yet, every time I saw children's photos on TV shows or Christmas cards, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Even 5 years after stopping the treatments, I still carry guilt and regret for not being able to have children. Then, one day, I decided to attend a class reunion, the first in about 10 years. My husband suggested I should take it easy and stay overnight nearby. It felt like a mini vacation. Come to think of it, since getting married, I rarely went out alone. I was always preoccupied with fertility treatments. It's okay to indulge once in a while. At the reunion, I enjoyed catching up with old friends. Rachel, long time no see. How are you? You look like you've lost some weight. Indeed, I had lost about 22 pounds in the last decade. I'm envious. Ever since I got married and had kids, I've gained about 33 pounds. Even these harmless conversations slightly stung my heart. Rachel, do you have any children? No, we couldn't have any. It's just me and my husband. Oh, I'm sorry if that was a weird question. No, it's fine. Let's have a good time. I tried to keep the atmosphere cheerful. Speaking of which, my son almost fell for a marriage scam recently. A scam? I was surprised by my classmate's words. Yeah, it was almost a fraud. She asked him for $20,000 before they even got married. What happened then? He couldn't pay $20,000, so he came to us, his parents. That's how we found out. In the end, the woman disappeared. What a scary story. There sure are some terrible women out there. Really frightening. Marriage fraud, huh? I'm a bit shocked to hear it happening so close to home. That son is now relieved to have found a new girlfriend, it seems. The reunion went smoothly and eventually came to an end. I didn't go to the after party, instead returning to my hotel and enjoying a drink alone. Oh, I forgot to contact my husband. It's still only 10 p.m., he should be awake. I called home. But no matter how much I rang, my husband didn't answer. Maybe he's already asleep. Well, I'll be home tomorrow anyway, so it's no big deal. However, I had a nagging feeling. A woman's intuition, perhaps? I just had a bad premonition. Since then, my husband started coming home extremely late on weekdays. And he began to come home drunk almost every night. Hey, I'm home. Honey. You're drinking so much and coming home like this. Are you okay? My husband, in a drunken state, sprawled out in the living room as soon as he took off his shoes, yelling, "Shut up. It's the man of the house returning. Show some respect." Where in that sloppy state am I supposed to find respect? While picking up his discarded socks and shirt, I mused internally. Samantha was so cute. If only you were younger like Samantha. My husband muttered such things. Who is Samantha? What does he mean by if only you were younger? I wanted to confront him, but he was already fast asleep. Could he be cheating on me? The unease I felt that day was turning into a strong suspicion. No, my husband is a principled man. He couldn't possibly do such a thing. It must be just drunk talk. I kept reassuring myself. But even on weekends, he would leave early in the morning and come back late at night. I'm heading out for a bit. Take care. And, as usual, he returned drunk. When this became a weekly occurrence, even I had to speak up. You've been drinking almost every day recently. Are you sure about the money? Shut up. It's my money. I can do what I want with it. It's from my savings before we got married. But we need to save for our retirement, or we'll be in trouble later. You save up then. I used a lot for the treatments. That's because you were defective. Even if he was drunk, such words were hurtful. I started to notice the change in my husband. Was it because I became self-deprecating after stopping the treatments? He increasingly made belittling comments about me. If you can't have kids, at least show me more love. As he wasted money and acted selfishly, I felt my love for him dwindling. He used to be so kind and supportive during the tough times of the treatments. I wonder if that husband will ever come back. What exactly is marriage? After 20 years, I've started to ponder this question. But then, things suddenly took a turn. Rachel, we need to talk. When I got back from work, my husband was sitting on the living room sofa with a serious look on his face. What's going on? You're being so formal. I want a divorce. What? Are you joking? Why are you saying this all of a sudden? I never dreamed that my husband was considering divorce. I knew we needed to rethink our relationship, but I never thought about divorce. Could he have been considering it before me? Why divorce all of a sudden? I demanded an explanation. We've been married for 20 years, right? Let's discuss things properly. But he looked at me with contempt. You really are clueless. He sighed heavily and glared at me. What do you mean? For these 20 years, I've always wanted kids. Because of a defective person like you, I was robbed of the chance to become a parent. Have you ever considered how I felt? He said arrogantly, tapping the table. But we decided to stop the treatments together. I was never okay with it. I've always wanted children. Why didn't he talk to me about it? I felt so sad and frustrated that I was on the verge of tears. Look, just fill in the divorce papers quietly, and I won't say anything more. He pushed the divorce papers across the table to me. I've already decided to remarry. Remarry? Yes, with a 20-year-old girlfriend. Girlfriend? What do you mean? Have you been cheating? Of course not. I'll register our marriage right after our divorce. He said proudly. A 20-year-old marrying my husband? Unbelievable. Samantha is kind, cute, and the ideal wife, unlike you. Samantha. The name he mentioned that day. A woman's intuition isn't something to be underestimated. I was a little impressed with myself. But this was no time for self-congratulation. And then, he showed me a photo of the cute Samantha. I almost burst out laughing when I saw it. Seriously? I couldn't believe this was happening. What's wrong? He noticed something was off with me. But I quickly regained my composure. I felt it was too early to reveal what I knew, so I put on a solemn face. So, you really wanted children that much, huh? Yes, I did. Since you couldn't have any, it couldn't be helped, right? You'll agree to the divorce, won't you? I guess it can't be helped. I exaggerated a sad expression. I was indeed sad when he first mentioned divorce. But his utter foolishness made me think that divorcing him might actually be the right decision. Yes, it's better to part ways with such a person sooner. Feeling like even God was suggesting this, I filled in the divorce papers and left him. He'll probably regret it soon enough. Well, I'll just watch from a distance for a while. About a year after the divorce. Rachel, please, help me. On my way home from work, a shabby man approached me. Excuse me, who are you? I genuinely didn't recognize him and was confused. It's me. Rachel, I need your help. It was my ex-husband. Technically a stranger now, since we're no longer married. It's been a while. I couldn't hide my surprise at his changed appearance. He was gaunt and dressed in filthy clothes. Please, introduce me to one of your firm's lawyers. I can't just do that all of a sudden. It turned out he was in financial trouble, with no money left. I guessed as much from his appearance, but I didn't expect him to become a completely different person in just a year. The initial consultation is free. Free? But hiring a lawyer will cost you. I don't have that kind of money. Please, help me. What happened? Reluctantly, I agreed to hear his story over coffee at a nearby cafe. Actually, before he could start, I spoke up. Did Samantha run away from you? How did you know that? Just as I thought. When he showed me Samantha's photo, I immediately recognized her. At the class reunion, a classmate's son had been deceived by a woman who looked just like her. At the reunion, my classmate was saying, I can't forgive this woman, and was showing her picture to everyone, warning them about her. I remembered her name being something like Amy, and she was supposedly 22. Well, those details were probably fake. It makes sense. Scammers don't use their real names. You knew about Samantha? Well, I knew something. So, what happened? He told me the whole story. He met Samantha at a club about a year ago. Desperate for children, he kept talking about it. Samantha then offered, I can have your child. They gradually grew closer. My ex-husband frequented the club almost every weekday and went on dates outside the club on weekends, eventually heading back to the club. During this lifestyle, he managed to spend $7,000 from his savings he had accumulated before we got married. She was always nice, you know. On our dates outside, she never asked for expensive things. She was happy as long as I was drinking at the club with her. She was different from those malicious hostesses you hear about. She didn't need branded goods or jewelry, just wanted me to drink at the club. She seemed like a hardworking, sincere girl. Since we agreed not to touch each other's savings from before our marriage, I had no idea about this. Well, it was his money, and he was free to spend it, but I never thought he would use up such a large amount. Then Samantha revealed her true colors. I want to get married, but I have some debt. I need to pay it off. It's about $20,000. And my ex-husband agreed to pay off her debt and transferred the money to her. They started living together immediately after our divorce, but Samantha worked nights. She seldom came home, I was told. Then she quit her job and disappeared. Of course, she took all the money with her. How foolish can he be? I felt embarrassed that I had been married to such a person for 20 years. Do you have a loan agreement? A loan agreement? When I asked, he just looked puzzled. You lent her money, right? Didn't you make a contract? We were going to be married, so no, we didn't make one. Then it's like you gave her the money, isn't it? Is it? In this case, it's considered that you gave Samantha $20,000 out of goodwill. She must be quite skilled at manipulation. With gifts, if the annual amount exceeds $10,000, gift tax applies. In some cases, received gifts can be taxed, so Samantha cleverly took only $20,000 in cash and disappeared. Moreover, she split the amount over 2 occasions within a year, crossing into a new year. This way, she didn't exceed the annual gift limit of $10,000 and avoided paying taxes. My ex-husband thought she was a good girl because she never demanded gifts, but it was because she knew the law well. What should I do now? Well, you could consult a lawyer. But it will cost you. He looked completely dejected. I've used up my savings, and the woman I loved ran away. I can't even tell my colleagues at work that the marriage is off. Especially after bragging about getting a young wife. That's what he gets for his actions. I thought, but didn't say anything, seeing how pitiful he looked. Rachel, I was wrong. Please come back to me. I realize now that you were the only one who cared about me. I don't need kids anymore. I'll let you do as you like. You must have been lonely too, right? Does he still think I have feelings for him? For me, it ended 6 months ago. So, I confronted him with reality. What are you talking about after a whole year? Isn't this a bit too convenient for you? But, Rachel, are you going to abandon me? Weren't you the one who pushed for a divorce? Rachel, you're the only one I can rely on. He looked exhausted. I decided to show a bit of compassion. All right. Shall I call a lawyer I know? Rachel, thank you. You still care about me. He was moved to tears. Then Andrew, a lawyer from my company, arrived at the cafe. Andrew, over here. Rachel, who is this? He's an acquaintance who seems to be in trouble. Is that so? Nice to meet you, I'm Andrew. My ex-husband looked puzzled at our seemingly close relationship. We've been dating for the past 6 months. So, what was the consultation about again? As I said that, my ex-husband seemed to be in a daze. No, I think that's enough for today. Suddenly coming to his senses, he quickly left as if he was escaping. Eventually, my ex-husband couldn't afford a lawyer and had to accept his loss. At his company, rumors spread that he was dumped by his fiancée and even his ex-wife wouldn't help him. It's a small world indeed. I never imagined someone from my ex-husband's company would be at that cafe, listening to our entire conversation from start to finish. I heard through the grapevine that, fearing a lonely old age, he's now desperately trying to find a new partner. What was that all about? Andrew asked me later, and I explained everything to him. I'm sorry for the trouble. Actually, that's quite a story. You've had a tough time, Rachel. The story about me dating Andrew was a complete fabrication. I asked him to play along as a favor. I'm really sorry for all the trouble. It's okay, I'm glad I could help. By the way, do you have plans after this? Would you like to have dinner together? I never expected such a turn of events and was flustered. A fresh start in my mid-40s. Not a bad beginning at all. Yes, I'd love to. I was filled with a sense of anticipation, believing that a fun and exciting future lay ahead. This unwavering feeling made me look forward to what's coming next.